Hello, beautiful people. This is Teacher Andrea, aka the ESL Navigator Andrea. So today I'm going to start a new series called Teacher Tips. Now, I am contracted across several different platforms, but today I'm specifically focusing on VIP Kid. So I ran into a situation today that I thought may be helpful to share with other people. So I had a young man who was walking around my, well, I shouldn't say my classroom, but walking around his house with his tablet. And it was causing his connection to go in and out, in and out, in and out. Also, he was hitting the settings and accidentally turning the camera off. And he's like, oops, and then he's turning the camera back on. And he's just a young learner. He's moving around. And to be quite honest, he needs that movement. So I don't necessarily want to discourage the movement, but I want to come up with a plan on how I'm going to meet the target objectives and how I can tie his movement into our coursework, right? I don't want him just moving and climbing on things and running around the room and it's totally irrelevant, right? He can't focus, we're losing our signal, and it's just not a good classroom environment that way, right? So I have to control what I can control in my classroom. Sometimes it's beyond your control. Now, I did have a moment where I had to contact the fireman because he was already 9 minutes late to class. Then we spent another minute with him turning the camera on and off and moving around. Maybe another minute or two of him losing signal. And at that point, yes, I need to contact the fireman. I need a record that I made an attempt to resolve the issue, right? So if the replay happens, if VIP Kid happens to have to review it because the parent was unsatisfied or whatever happened, right? I have documentation that I attempted to resolve the issue. So what I need to do now is kind of figure out how to foster a relationship with the parent. I don't see the parent, particularly mom. Usually if I see dad's in the background, he's kind of occupied reading, doing something else, and he's totally ignoring his son, right? So there's no sense in me even attempting to get that parent involved. He's obviously busy and doing things. I don't know if mom is at work or mom is navigating other parts of the household at that moment, but it's evident that the young man needs a little bit more guidance, and we have to figure out how to facilitate that. So one thing that you can do is write something to your parents. Now, understand that this kid has had about 10 or 12 classes with me, so I'm not quite sure of the number, but I do know that he's been pretty consistent. He's one of my newer students. He happened to have been a short notice that I opened up, and he just decided to stick around, right? So now he's one of my regulars. So I'm going to read to you a portion of what I wrote to the parents, and then we can talk about how you can communicate with the learning partner as well about the issues to make sure that message that you have to the parent is culturally sound, right? And that there are no, I guess you can say, translation errors, right? Or barriers or language barriers. So this is what I wrote. Greetings. Bao Bao and I were scheduled to continue our unit about bodies of water. However, Bao Bao was 9 minutes late to class. Then his camera did not turn on immediately. We started 10 minutes into class. He was walking around his home with his tablet in his hand. He lost connection to the course room multiple times. We were unable to finish the lesson or a secondary reward as a result. We made it to slide number 11, and then I skipped to 25. Okay. We briefly discussed the characteristics of ponds, lakes, rivers. We used how with many to ask questions, and then I went into this. I specifically talked about how they can cover the material at home that we didn't get to in the slides that that this weren't covered, right? So at home, Bao Bao can observe the following shapes, say their names, and write their names. I'm not going to read all of these shapes, but I will skip to this part. For extra practice, parents can slice a pizza in half or some other circular item and introduce the terms half circle and quarter circle. Maybe I shouldn't have said half, but you get the point. Bao Bao can practice saying if a shape is open or closed. It will also benefit Bao Bao to find a quiet space to take class and have a seat. When he walks around his house with his tablet, he loses connection to the course room or accidentally turns off the camera. Teacher understands that Bao Bao's learning style includes movement. In our next class, I plan to use his secondary reward to allow movement breaks and carrying out small tasks related to the target objectives of our lesson. He is a super smart young boy. Making these minor adjustments to his classroom environment will allow him to excel rapidly. Respectfully, Teacher Andrea, or whatever your show name is or your handle, right? So, as you can see, I did a few things there. I explained what the problem was. If you want to get really detailed, you can tell the parent that you had to contact the fireman and what the resolution was, or if there was no resolution. That's just an extra cushion, or protection for yourself in terms of documentation. I didn't quite go that far. I really haven't had a lot of issues with the parents not accepting my feedback or not knowing what's going on. I'm just trying to facilitate a better relationship with them so that the child can have a better classroom environment, right? Then I discussed what we did cover in class and how the parents can do extra practice at home. Things, give them tangible things they can do to kind of cover the material that was lost today, right? So maybe cutting the pizza in half or cutting the pizza into quarters, right? If there's some other kind of circular food that he can cut, right? So I want to make sure that I give them something to do so that way they don't feel like maybe the class was a total loss, right? He did learn some things in class. We just didn't get to everything. Now, you can recommend that the student retake this class. If you feel like, hey, we only got to slide 5 out of 30 and that's just not gonna fly, maybe he should retake this class so he can, actually learn the material, right? You can make that suggestion as well. I want to caution you though on knowing your relationship with your parent. You do not want to come across as negative or putting the student down or not knowing how to manage your classroom, right? So just think about that. Have you had any interaction with the parents? Have they been responsive to your previous messages? Have you noticed any little subtle changes, like when you say something to the parent, did they make a change? This student really hasn't made any changes. I've made very subtle suggestions in the first few classes, and I'm noticing that we're not getting anywhere. And it's getting progressively worse. He's starting to show up to class late. We weren't doing that at first. At first, we were just moving around, right? So then you see me go into how I have a plan, or what my plan is for our next class, right? So they're showing that I still am invested. I'm still interested in what's going on with your child. And I have a resolution, a potential resolution. I want to facilitate a relationship with the parent so that we can work together. I'm probably not going to talk to mom, but maybe she will take notice of my message, and maybe she'll find him a room and relate to him. Hey, you don't need to or relate to him that you don't need to leave this room during class. Teacher said you can move around, but you need to stay focused. Maybe they have that conversation. I don't know. Now, one way to kind of ensure that conversation happens is by writing the learning partner. Okay, so I'm going to just scroll down right here and I'm going to show you what I wrote to the learning partner. So I wrote, "Dear learning partner, I love teaching Bao Bao. He is super smart. However, it is a little difficult to teach him when he is walking around his home with his tablet in his hand. This causes him to turn off his camera accidentally, or he loses his connection to the course room. It is disruptive to the flow of the coursework. Bao Bao is probably a kinetic learner and needs movement breaks, and that is fine with me. But it will need to be a secondary reward and tied to the course objectives. He will also need to arrive to class on time so we can have time to extend. Making these minor adjustments will facilitate a better learning experience, and I am confident that he will excel rapidly in his English skills. Respectfully, Teacher Andrea." Okay, so that was just really nice, short, to the point, right? Hey, I had problems in the class. This is the type of learner I think he is. This is what I think he should do. And, this is kind of what my plan is, right? I understand this child. So, when you write the learning partner, that it's kind of like a lead teacher in China, or think about it in terms of social services world, a case manager, right? So the case manager kind of helps navigate the family life at home, right? I don't speak Chinese, so I can't call mom and say, hey mom, I think you need to do this. We don't have the mom's telephone number either, right? So we have to kind of facilitate this information to the learning partner and let them kind of navigate that relationship for us. I would say about 75 to 80% of the time, this really helps. This communication helps. We do have some parents every now and then that just feel like, you know what, that's not my problem. She needs to manage her course room. And at that point, you need to make a decision on whether or not you're going to contact the learning partner and say, please, he needs to just find another teacher, right? We're not a good match for his learning style. He needs to find a teacher that matches his learning style, right? And it's just a nice way to say it. But at least make an effort to try to resolve the issue. Don't just say, hey, I don't want this kid anymore because he's moving around with his tablet, right? Figure out something that you can do. If it's just not working, it's not working, and you can communicate that later. Now, I do want to show you where to locate the area to I can't talk. The area to leave feedback for your learning partner, right? So I'm going to go over here and scroll all the way down. So this is where you start leaving your feedback, right? So you have this section up here. I'm just giving you a general example. So how did your student do in class? So that's when you talk to the parent. Then your tips to the teacher, the next teacher. You can leave a message to the next teacher if you want to. It's optional. And then the student placement accuracy, you just kind of mark how the student did. And then at the very, very bottom, okay, it says suggestions to the student through VIP Kid. Notice in parentheses, it says only seen by the student's learning partner. And that is where you can make a suggestion about, hey, the student couldn't focus, there was IT issues, the parent needs to be involved, we need to repeat a level, whatever that message is. And so the exact thing that I just wrote to the learning partner, right, is located in that area. And once I hit the submit button, you have about an hour before it's solidified and you can't make any edits, right? So make sure that you read through it, that it sounds nice. If you feel like it's really wordy, maybe run it through a translator just to make sure you're communicating effectively. But I would say your biggest key in building a relationship with a parent is, writing what happened, but kind of saving the gritty details for that learning partner so that they can kind of communicate that for you. You don't want to create a negative relationship with the parent, okay? So hopefully this was helpful to you. I will try to do one of these tips every week. If not, at least you can see them every couple weeks or whatever, but I want to try to be consistent with some things that I'm seeing. So if you liked what you heard, please hit that subscribe bell, hit that notification button, and if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please feel free to email me at eslnavigatorandrea@gmail.com. All right, I look forward to talking to you again. See you next time. Bye bye.